Hello, my name is Ted Chen, and I'm with LifeSaver Mobile. LifeSaver Mobile is a Jamf solution partner, and we are really excited to talk to you today about what we do in conjunction with Jamf, and we help bring an interesting use case to companies that use iOS devices for fleets and their driving employees. What we have and what the Jamf team and the Lifesaver team have come up with as a way to sort of describe this feature and this solution is we talk about it as do not disturb while driving for the enterprise. It really is what it really just means, which is we're basically taking away that phone distraction from those employees while they're driving for their employers. And so we're really excited to talk to you about this today. So first off, I want to talk to you about the fact that this is a huge pain point, right? So driver safety is a huge pain point for lots of companies that have fleet vehicles or just frankly vehicles that are being driven for work purposes every single day. You can imagine there's lots of different types of vehicles that are being driven for work purposes, and we'll get to that in the next slide. So here's a quick overview as to what types of businesses have vehicle fleets, and maybe you can think about whether your company is fits into one of these categories. So clearly, work truck is one of the major categories that we work on. Last mile delivery, of course, sales and service, and then to a lesser extent, some of the other ones to the right hand side of the screen: gig economy, government fleets, and over-the-road trucking. Whether your company operates a fleet in any of these categories, the pain point of driver safety is frankly afflicting all of these types of fleets, and it's so much so that it is really difficult these days to get affordable insurance. The logo on the side of the truck is a huge target unfortunately, for the liability issues associated with the litigious environment that we live in today. And so really all about, and of course, at the most important level, it's the driver safety. And so if you're operating a fleet, you probably have talked to your corporate safety peers. You probably know that this is a huge pain point. For us, we focus on the corporate devices, of course, those that are managed by Jamf. And it's either an iPhone or an iPad, and we can certainly help your company restrict those devices so that they are hands-free behind the wheel as the employee is driving around in your vehicle. So why does corporate IT care about driver safety? Well, clearly, as I said earlier, number one, the phone distraction is the number one cause of vehicle collisions, and that's been talked about many times over the last 10 years, ever since smartphones became commonplace. And you'll see that commercial auto insurers they really kind of attribute and connect the smartphone introduction of the smartphone as one of the sort of leading causes of how commercial auto insurance became much less profitable for them. So you can see that there's a direct correlation between phone distraction and collisions out there. And it's not only just consumers, but of course commercial drivers as well. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, once you get into this notion of a truck with the logo on the side of your truck, that becomes a really easy target for anyone who is purportedly injured by one of your drivers, in which case that could really damage the company's brand, the company's reputation, or frankly even its viability. There's a phrase that's been used a lot in litigation these days. It's called nuclear verdict. It means a verdict in excess of 8 figures. And unfortunately, it's something that's talked about quite a bit in terms of the world of driver safety as well. So as you can see here, there was a major settlement here in this case, or judgment, and unfortunately, one of the reasons why the jury felt so strongly about that verdict was because the driver was admitted to being on the cell phone. So clearly, this is restricting the phone is a big deal, and to the extent that you can do this through technology and through your Jamf instance. We just wanted to let you guys know more about that. So next slide. Here's a slide on really the best practices for what companies should be doing as part of this liability or exposure or driver safety problem. And the first and foremost, there's three things. I'll kind of break it down into three basic best practices. So first off, you want to have a really strong corporate policy, and that corporate policy obviously needs to restrict all phone usage beyond the wheel, at least hands-free, right? So hands-free compliance, hands-free policy is really the bare minimum, because as we all know, in all 50 states and in Canada too, the legal threshold is hands-free compliance, hands-free usage. So at a bare minimum, your corporate policy should be, matching to that hands-free legal threshold there. And then secondly, and of course, it should be hands-free for all devices, right? Not just corporate devices, but personal devices as well. And secondly, when it comes to corporate devices, you have to enforce the things that are within your corporate control. And so obviously a corporate device managed or supervised by Jamf, either way, can be restricted DND while driving behind the wheel using Jamf plus LifeSaver Mobile. And we'll talk more about that in just a few moments. And so that technology solution is really key to restricting that corporate device. And then the third best practice is really making sure that those personal devices are mitigated to the extent that to the best that the company can do so. And what you want to do there is basically offer the solution to your employees. Make sure that they know that it's available to them. Of course, if most employees may not want to do this because it's their personal device, but at the end of the day, let them know that if they do get caught with it, then they are in violation of the corporate policy that you've established, and there could be repercussions for that. So those are the three best practices. Make sure you have a strong corporate policy covering both corporate and personal devices. Restrict what you control, which are the corporate devices, and then offer the program, the technology program, to those employees on the personal devices as well. Just a quick note on some of the technologies that are out there today. And most of these driver safety solutions for fleets are actually not on the device, not in the phone, but actually in the vehicle, right? So telematics and dash cams, you may hear this from your fleet safety or fleet management peers. And they might mention that they already have these types of solutions for driver safety, and that's great. We think so too, right? I mean, obviously you can see from this one screen that telematics and dash cams are very good at what they do in terms of detecting unsafe driving behavior, and also a warning, in some cases, unsafe driving behavior. Unfortunately, what they don't do, and this is where we fill the gap, is they don't prevent phone distraction, and they don't do enough of a good job on the warning of the speed events as well. And so that's really what we bring to the table, is this prevention piece. Obviously, as a safety individual, and I'm sure you'll hear this from your safety peers, is that they'd much rather prefer to stop unsafe behavior than to have to monitor it and warn it and coach it, which is a lot of work. And frankly, no one has the resources and time to do that. So that's another reason why technologies like ours are very popular. Is you just get rid of the problem altogether rather than having to coach it up afterwards. So just a quick summary and recap of LifeSaver Mobile's differentiators before we get into the solution. So clearly, we're software or mobile apps based solution deployed over the air. So there's no hardware. And there are other solutions out there in the marketplace that do require a piece of hardware. So that's a huge differentiator for us from a cost perspective, deployment perspective, the whole 9 yards. Secondly, we just talked about how our solution is easily, it's one that safety folks love because it's stopping the problem before it's too late. And being proactive is certainly a better way to go when it comes to safety, driving safety especially. And then thirdly, we are meaningful, meaning that we're tackling the leading causes of crash frequency and crash severity for vehicles, and that's phone distraction for frequency and speeding for crash severity. So let's get into the solution and how it works at a high level so that you guys can understand a little bit more about what we do and how we do it. So once again, no hardware, no beacons to install in the vehicle. We are an app-based solution. It's a mobile app installed on the corporate device, and then controlled. All these apps across hundreds, if not thousands, of devices are managed by an administrative portal, which obviously has any manager who's designated to have access to that portal can configure the settings, can view the reporting, and can even help with deployment. It all depends on what level of access you have into the portal, but the manager portal is extremely powerful and robust, and we'll talk about that in a second. So just to kind of give you a real high level, but hopefully good view as to what the app does and how it improves safety. So that we have three potential restrictions that we bring to the employee. And what's important here to know is that we're bringing these restrictions only when it's relevant. So when it's relevant is when you're driving, of course, and because we're a driver safety solution, and when you're on duty. So if you're not actually within the hours of employment, then the employer may or may not care whether you're restricted or not. Some employers do want that restriction to occur 24/7 because it's their device and they don't want that liability to arise even off duty. But others would rather see that restriction go away when the employee's off duty, in which case we have that capability too. Again, all of this is being done without any beacon or any hardware installed in the vehicle. It's entirely software. So what are the three restrictions that we bring? So the three restrictions are: number one, screen blocking; number two, hands-free call enforcement; and number three, verbal speed alerts. And we'll talk a little bit about each one right now. So screen blocking is the first and foremost. Everyone, when they approach us and ask about our solution, that's the first thing that they ask about, because when it comes to distraction in the vehicle, two of the biggest distractions are visual and manual distraction. So when our solution along, obviously joint solution with Jamf, it takes away that screen distraction because you can't get to the screen anymore, right? So you can't touch it, well, you can't manipulate it, and you can't view it. So we're taking away that visual and manual distraction. Of course, navigation is important to all drivers, especially commercial drivers. They have to know where they're going. So we allow for that to be an allowable exception, defaulted out the gate, and that's something that most commercial drivers need to have. So that's screen blocking. Second is hands-free call enforcement, and what that really means is we want to give employers the ability to enforce the hands-free policy that we talked about earlier. So that means for any calls that come in, both inbound or outbound, we want to make sure that the company can confirm that these calls are coming in and being connected to the employee on a hands-free connection. So that means we look for Bluetooth connection. If the Bluetooth signal or Bluetooth connection is not made, then you can either block it or just report it, depending on how rigorous or strict you want to be. And so that's another way. So you can tell from how I'm talking about it, there's a lot of granularity and detail as to how you want to enforce it. And we just leave it up to each company and each company's managers as to how they want to set this up. So again, this is voice hands-free call enforcement. And then the third restriction is verbal speed alerts. And we might go back, if you recall back to the previous slide with the telematics and the dash cams, most of those systems typically do have speed alerts. What they typically have is some sort of beeping sound when the driver's exceeded a speeding threshold. Well, what we do is we kind of add a layer on top of that, and we bring a verbal notification to the driver during the drive when they've crossed any speed threshold that's established by the employer. And what that means is we can either read out a message that you've established, and everything's customized in the portal, of course. So you can customize the verbal message to be whatever you want as a manager, and then that will be read out to the driver. You can have those messages be different for every group of drivers in your company. And then you can even record an audio message that can be different audio message for each group of drivers. And that audio message could be someone like your president or CEO or even or the safety director, that type of thing. So we think that the verbal cues that our solution offers and our platform offers are much more effective at getting the driver to react and to slow down, because beeps can be ignored, and they can be ambiguous as well. So it's hard to know what they really mean. So those are the three restrictions that we bring to the table, and they are, as I said, two of the biggest risk factors associated with vehicle safety and vehicle collisions. So one of the things that we love to talk about is how simple our solution is, not only from a design, and obviously we don't have any hardware, as I keep saying, but also just simple to deploy and simple to manage, right? So Jamf makes it super easy to get that onto all your driver devices. And then, of course, our integration with Jamf, and we have several layers of integration with Jamf, allow you to auto-populate those devices and the names or phone numbers from those devices into your admin portal very easily, so that you don't have to do any manual input there. So that's a really nice feature that we have with Jamf as well. And of course, then we make it easy for you being any of the managers in the company to view the reporting. We don't require you to go into the portal every day, but we can schedule daily email delivery of exception reports that go to each of the managers that are designated for access in the portal, and they can get these exception reports on a regular basis, so they can keep an eye out for their respective drivers, who they're responsible for, without having to log in the portal all the time. But obviously the portal is available at any given time, so you can just log in and see a lot more detail if you choose to do so. Simple to manage, simple to deploy. We just try to make it simple. And then, of course, the outcome is that everyone's looking for is a reduction in at-fault collisions, right? And we've seen this over and over again, where companies, after using our system for multiple years, will come back and tell us how pleased they are. We had one company just come back to us with 750 vehicles, and they came back and said, "Yeah, here's our 6-year history of collisions, and as soon as we started using LifeSaver." And that was the only thing they did, was just start using LifeSaver. They dropped their collision at-fault collisions by 80%, which was astounding. So I want to talk to you a little bit about one particular use case study. This is a joint customer, of course, called B Sweet Citrus. They are a fruit citrus grower, packer, shipper based in Central California, and they came to us and said, "Hey, look, we need to figure out how to create this DND while driving for the enterprise for our devices and our employees." And they have over 100 vehicles, 100 personnel operating company vehicles and using company iPhones. So they came to us a couple of years back, and we were able to bring in our partners at Jamf, and so far it's been super. And I'll show you on the next slide. So what they did was they obviously were looking for a way to bring that to improve that driver safety, simplify the management of those mobile devices, and restrict the use of those phone screens while driving. And that's what they were able to do with our joint solution. And as you can see from this quote here from our key stakeholder at the company, Ben Ladd, who's the VP and General Counsel, he was very pleased with the results, and his team has continued to be very pleased with the results.
Active management of the LifeSaver data is driving change within our organization. We're confident people aren't texting and driving, and we're seeing the results. We're pleased with the product and its value.
Their IT team has reduced a lot of their legwork because of how easy Jamf is. And of course, the joint solution with Jamf has done its job in terms of restricting the screen use while driving. Well, I just want to thank you for your time today. Obviously, our partner solution with Jamf is something that we think can bring a lot of value to you as if your company is operating a fleet of vehicles. I would encourage you to speak to your peers, either on the safety side or on the iOS management side, to make sure that they know about this type of solution. We love to call it, as you can see here on the screen, do not disturb while driving for the enterprise. And we'd love to have a conversation with you and your team to see if it's a good fit for your devices, your iOS devices. To learn more, please visit jamf.lifesavermobile.com. Once again, that's jamf.lifesavermobile.com. And you'll see all the initial information on how to reach us. And we'd love to hear from you soon. Take care. And once again, my name is Ted Chen from LifeSaver Mobile. And I really thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.